Hey everybody, Derek here. I'm here to bring you another video for The Walking Dead, countdown to the start of Season 6. And what I'm going to be doing in this video is I'm going to be giving my character death predictions for Season 6, characters that I think may die in Season 6 and why. I'm going to divide this video into two different videos, potentially more depending on how long they run. This video is going to be doing the Alexandria resonance. I'm going to separate Rick's group and Alexandria and give different death predictions for each because otherwise it's going to be a very, very, very long video. So just in case you guys are not caught up with The Walking Dead or you do not want to be spoiled in any way, this video will contain spoilers from the comics, TV show, and I do not want to spoil anybody with the upcoming story. So if you don't want to be spoiled, you don't want to know, stop watching the video right now because otherwise you will be spoiled. Okay, so moving into Season 6, we are going to see, as we saw in the trailer, several different characters will be dying, and mostly they would be like the red shirts, as we call them, of Alexandria. Red shirts coming from the Star Trek series, but, mostly they could probably be background characters that we don't know about. But with that, we may also see some other characters from Alexandria dying. They are new characters, and, they would be easy to pick off. Plus, with the comics, there are several that have died. And I would not be surprised if those deaths would be incorporated into the TV show. So, here are my predictions for characters that I think may die in Season 6 from the Alexandria community. One of those characters being Bruce, the guy who had to send a fax to Cleveland in the episode Spend. Bruce is a comic book character. He was one of the individuals who was part of the construction crew, and in the comics he has a beard, a pretty long beard, so he does look different. But he is, one of the better suited survivors. He's tough. He does put himself out there, to fight off the zombies, but of course he's also, a member of Alexandria, and what ends up happening is in the comics, it's Holly that gets, left out in the open, but in the TV show, it's Francine. And, Tobin and Bruce, they were, they formed the Phalanx, which, prevented somebody from, in that little group from dying, but if anybody was left out, they didn't go to save them, so it was up to Abraham to save, Holly. Well, Bruce does end up dying in the comics in No Way Out. When the initial walkers, invade, at first they don't break through the walls, they are just outside. And what happens is they go outside, Abraham leads a group out, and they start to kill some of the walkers that are outside already, and Bruce ends up getting bitten on the neck. And as a result of that, obviously he can't be helped. And Abraham ends up shooting him in the head, which does shock very many people. And Abraham didn't want to do it, he doesn't want to have to do that, but he had no choice. And I would not be surprised if Bruce's death was incorporated into the TV show. I think that would create a lot of different storylines for Abraham. I think he would feel bad about it. I think that it could, increase the tensions between Alexandria and Rick's group because of the fact that, more of their people died and they're obviously upset about that. And, I think that it would create some story for Abraham where he would be upset about that. And I think it would do some potential good for the storyline. As much as we like Bruce, sometimes the character deaths have to happen in order to move the story forward. So I would not be surprised if he does die in Season 6. In that same, context, Tobin would also be a character that I would predict would die in Season 6 because he also dies during the No Way Out comic book storyline. When the walkers are getting ready to, they basically do tear through the wall and come in, Tobin actually backs up a truck against the wall in order to prevent the walkers from coming in. But when he tries to get out and leave, he gets overrun and does get eaten. And again, I think that that would be something that they would incorporate into the storyline. Again, with a lot of these Alexandria characters, are you really going to have time for all of them? And I don't think you will. I mean, I think there's going to be a lot of different stories that they're going to want to pursue. And again, I think that Tobin is very prominent in the community. He's somebody that has worked on the wall, somebody that has done a lot for the community, and I think that his death would devastate various individuals in the community. And again, I just think that because it did happen in the comics, I would not be surprised if it happens in the TV show as well. Another character would be Eric, Aaron's boyfriend. One of the reasons that I say that is because if you watch my video of Will Aaron try to kill Rick, I do see that Eric most likely is injured in one of the early episodes of season 6, and there is a chance that he may die in season 6. I'm 50-50 on that because on the one hand, in the comic books, Eric does get stabbed by a woman that Aaron and Eric were trailing to see if they could bring her back. He was stabbed, but he does end up living. And that was an isolated incident. But here, you see a couple of things happening. In the trailer, there's this one scene where, somebody with a white t-shirt, is laying on the ground, and Carol's looking through the bush, and the person, like somebody who we assume to be one of the wolves or somebody terrible, takes an axe and, slams down on the person. And, we see in the trailer, somebody is brought into Dr. Denise's, office, and he's got a knife in him, as well as several slash marks down the body. So I think that might be Eric. And I mean, again, it's possible in the comics, just like how he survived in the comics, he may survive in the TV show. But I could also see them killing him off, because that would be something that would absolutely devastate Aaron. And I think that it would push his character forward. It may change him and his perspective about what the world is like. He may side with Rick's group unless he blames Rick for what happened. And we do see him in the trailer quite a bit, crying, looking very upset, walking around with a knife, which really does make me think, would he do that if Eric was still alive? Maybe, but maybe not. So I think that there's a very good chance that Eric may die in season 6 as a result of his injuries. And again, he might not. We'll see what happens, but I'm not gonna rule it out. I think it is very possible that he may die. Another possibility is Nicholas. Nicholas has definitely been a very interesting character so far in season 6. He's not a big fan of Rick's group. He doesn't trust them. He's definitely, very concerned about them moving in. And of course, after the incidents that happened, with Noah and Aiden's death, and of course after he tried to kill Glenn, it really does make you wonder what kind of story Nicholas is going to have in season 6. Just a spoiler warning here. Nicholas does eventually die in the comics, but his death is so random that it could be changed at any point. And really, there are a lot of questions going into season 6 about Nicholas. Will he actually, agree with Rick's group? Will his experience with Glenn change him for the better? Will he become a braver person? Will he realize that Rick's group is not the terrible people that he thinks they are? And will he cooperate, or won't he? Will he put on a smile and, try to, say, hey, yeah, I'm with you, I appreciate what you did for me, Glenn, whereas what he's actually doing is plotting his next, move. Will he try to kill Glenn again? There is that scene in the trailer where we see Nicholas walking through the woods with a gun, so we see that. We also see a scene where he's sitting up in what might be the tower or what might be a building, aiming out with a sniper rifle. Is that against walkers, or is that against somebody? We don't know. Another thing, too, we do see Nicholas, stabbing something, but it's off screen. Now, we know that he was stabbing walkers with the knife in that one scene, and we do see Glenn and Nicholas fighting side by side. There's this big, huge group of walkers coming at them, and you see them both shooting their guns. Now, I feel like one of two things might happen. Either, Nicholas may try to kill Glenn again, or he might try to kill somebody else, and at this point, that's when Glenn just says, enough's enough, I've given you all the chances I can give you, you're gone, and he may, shoot him, kill him, he may shove him into the walkers. We may see Glenn take a terrible turn like that against Nicholas. Or another possibility is that Nicholas may sacrifice himself. I don't really know where they're at, but we do see again that group of walkers coming at them, and I feel it may be very possible that Nicholas, may be a reformed person, and he may sacrifice himself in order to save Glenn or other people. So I would not be surprised if they did turn his character around a little bit to do that. But after what happened in season 6, Nicholas is really in a very interesting spot where he might, if he's not killed off by walkers, if Glenn ever tells him the truth, or if he ever does anything ever again, I just think his chances are over. So it's really going to be contingent upon how Nicholas is feeling going into season 6. But I think it's very, very possible that we may see him die. Someone, though, who I think most certainly will, if the others are maybes, this is almost a definite, would be Deanna. In the comics, the character is Douglas, of course, and Douglas does lose his wife, which devastates him, and he ends up becoming, suicidal. He wants to die. He can't bring himself to shoot himself. So what ends up happening is when the walkers come in and start to attack everybody, Douglas ends up going out and starts shooting at some of the walkers, shooting wildly, and he lets himself get bitten, so that way there's no turning back. And he does die. Now, Deanna in the comics, well, in the TV show from the trailer, she appears to be teetering back and forth between, whether she really does have it all together or whether she will be exhibiting some signs as well, because we see her sitting down where that pool of blood is, where, Reg died and Gabriel's behind her. We see another scene where she's, stabbing a walker repeatedly over and over and over again. We see that. We also see that scene where Morgan's talking to her, like, you still know your way, he talks to her, and Deanna just has that, like, deer in headlights look. I think that it's very possible that she may, lose her sanity. That's a possibility. But then again, Deanna also does seem like a stronger character than Douglas. I mean, Douglas is just very, creepy in general. He's very chauvinistic. He's very sexist. He exhibits a lot of things that Deanna doesn't. Deanna is very, by the book. She's very, in control of herself and in control of things. She doesn't take advantage of that. And, we just may see that, she dies in some other way. But the thing of it is, Deanna being alive, that could prevent Rick from taking over the community. I'm not saying that that would necessarily be a good thing or a bad thing, but, having Deanna alive does, put into the question of, will people be loyal to Deanna or will people be loyal to Rick? And if you have that, if you have two leaders who are, alive and on separate sides, that can make for a bad thing, like Rick and Shane, It really does make you wonder what could have happened if Shane would have lived longer. But, with Deanna being alive, that can threaten Rick being able to take over the community. And if Deanna would die, I think that people would be more willing to listen to Rick, that they would be more willing to, follow him. And I think that if Deanna would die, that would, happen. So I could see Deanna dying in season 6, almost certainly. I would say, I think by the mid-season finale, I think that she will die. Whether she dies the same way as she does in the comics or whether it's through some other means, I'm interested to see, but I do think that Deanna will die before the first half of the season is over. And finally, looking over the rest of the Alexandria characters, there are a couple more that I think, possibly one or more out of this group may die, and that is the rest of the Anderson family, Jesse, Ron, and Sam. Um, I'm not sure. I'm really on the fence about it because on the one hand, I think to myself, that Jesse may be a very prominent character later on in the show for Rick. Now that Andrea is dead in the TV show and she won't be there to be in a relationship with Rick, will somebody else step into that place, or are they going to continue the story with Rick being alone? That could go either way. So I could see them, letting Jesse live and becoming somebody who is important in the community, who does, in a sense, maybe take a little bit of Andrea's story, and that her and Rick do have a long-lasting relationship. But on the other hand, I could see them doing what happens in the comics, because I think that it would be shocking, and I think that it is a memorable scene that may have to take place. Let me explain what happens in the comics. When the Walkers invade, Rick doesn't want to stay in the house, waiting for the Walkers to come in, tear down everything, and kill them. So he takes a Walker body, and just like how they do on the show, they spread Walker guts on themselves. And Rick, Jesse, Carl, Ron, and Michonne all put that stuff on their bodies in order to travel out. And what ends up happening is the Walkers, either they didn't put enough on themselves or Ron made a noise or something, because the Walkers start to attack Ron. And of course, Ron's a lot younger in the comics than he is in the TV show. So the Walkers are attacking Ron. He's bit. He's done. Jesse, wants to try to save her son, but it's not possible. And once she realizes that, she gets bitten as well, and she starts to hold on to Carl's hand, like almost like, let's die together, or she won't let go. Rick has to make an unfortunate decision. He cuts Jesse's hand off in order to save Carl, and Jesse ends up getting eaten as well. I could see that happening in the TV show. I think that it is very, very possible that we may see Jesse and Sam. I would think that Sam would die the same way as Ron would. I think that it would be Sam that would die, and then Jesse would die in the same way. Now, how would Ron die? That would definitely be an interesting question, because they may let him live. Another thought that I thought about, though, was, maybe Ron, might get himself killed in another manner. That if he does die, it wouldn't be like that. And, I thought that maybe there's a possibility that Carl might kill him. I have thought about that. Will there be some kind of a showdown between Carl and Ron? And maybe that's how Carl loses his eye. Could you imagine, Ron stabbing the eye out, shooting the eye out? I think it's very possible that Ron may lose his sanity, and as a result of that, he may die in some other manner. Whether it be, he also gets eaten by Walkers at the same time, or again, he may try to attack Carl, and that may be the reason why Carl's eye gets, stabbed out or shot out. I think that's a very, very good possibility that may happen, and it could happen before, these events happen, or it could happen after. Like, Ron survives the Walkers that come in, and he goes after Carl. Because of everything that's happened. So it may happen, right in the next episode, and I think that would be very interesting, but I would not be surprised if Ron also dies, but maybe not the same way, because I think if they would go by the comics, I think that it would be Sam that would die that way, and not Ron. But Jesse might die the same way as well, but I think that Ron would have to die in a different fashion. So I honestly think that is a possibility. I don't know whether it's going to happen, though. I can see various different reasons for it happening. I can also see various different reasons why you would avoid it. All we can do is wait and see what happens. So with that, I'm going to bring this video to a close. I want to thank all of you guys for watching. If you have any questions or comments, don't be afraid to leave them. Feel free to subscribe. I do have more videos coming. If you guys have any suggestions for future videos that you would like to see, please do not be afraid to suggest them. I hope you all have a wonderful evening, and thank you very much for watching.